Kwekwe, Mino Pajashik, Monique Manatch Indigenous, Kitikanik Beck and Dojiba. My name is Monique Manatch, and I'm a member of the Algonquins of Barrier Lake. And you're here with us today with InDigital Insights. And today, we are very fortunate to have with us the photographer and artist, Cora Kavyaktok. And Cora, I was going over your work, and it's so beautiful. I just can't wait to hear more about it and see some images and talk to you about it. So I'm just going to hand it over to you so that we can get started. So if that's okay.
Thank you for having me. My name is Cora Kavyaktok. I am the owner of Lil Inuk Photography, and here are my social media handles if you would like to take a follow and look at my other work that might not be highlighted during this presentation. So I am originally from Iqaluit-Tutiak, Cambridge Bay, Nunavut. I am now residing in Vermilion, Alberta, which is only 1,777 kilometers away from home. Just a short little jaunt. So I always describe Cambridge Bay as being on the big island in the center of Canada when you're looking at the map. We are a fly-in community and with no ice roads or anything like that going up to Cambridge Bay. So we are kind of secluded. But here is a look at our beautiful landscape that's up there. I took this shot a couple of summers ago when we were, when my daughters and I went up to Cambridge Bay for a wedding. And this is it. I think it was about midnight. So it was Land of the Midnight Sun, of course. So, how it all got started. My photography started at a very young age. This is my best friend, Huvuk Johnston, and myself in 1996, not to age myself, but this is us when we were younger. We would go and buy the Northern Store out of all of the Polaroid film that they had available, and we would go back to her place and I would get her to dress up for me, and then I would take shots such as this. All right. So I've often been asked why the name Lil Inuk Photography. So in our culture, we have a legend called Lil Inuit, and they would come into towns or into settlements and cause havoc. So I'm kind of a little bit mischievous sometimes, and I always wanted something that would go pay tribute to my Inuit culture, and I am only 5'1", so Lil Inuk Photography it was. That's how that name came about. So a lot of my career has been centered around Inuit tattooing, Tunit and Kakunit. Um, this has been a practice that was just about gone from our culture. I believe it was 3 generations that it was just about gone, taken out of our culture due to residential school and colonization. So as I said earlier, my best friend Huvuk Johnston, she had gotten her own facial markings, and when she was doing that, she always said that she felt like the ceremony of getting her markings was missing. So she knew that she wanted to um, do something about it and make sure that other women that were craving to get their markings back or reclaiming their skin would have that safe space for getting our traditional markings. So that is when the Inuit Tattoo Revitalization Project was born. So Huvuk took it upon herself when she learned of one of the last women that had traditional facial markings was passing, and she thought it's not dying along with her. So she formed the Inuit Tattoo Revitalization Project. And since the project was born, we have gone into 4 different communities, which was our first one was in Kugluktuk, Nunavut. We also went to Cambridge Bay, which is my hometown, and Huvuk was there attending school as well. She's from a small little settlement. Um, and then we've gone up to Uluhaktok, Northwest Territories, and Rankin Inlet, Nunavut. So those are the 4 communities that we have gone to with the Tattoo Revitalization Project. And every single project was such a remarkable thing to be part of. We go into the communities and women get to choose how they would get tattooed. So traditionally, we would be using poke and stick, and as well as threading. So there are some of the modern day ways that we do the poke and stick and threading. Here you can see the thread being passed through the skin, leaving behind the ink, and then as well as getting finger poke. During the Tattoo Revitalization Project, my role is to capture all of the moments, the special moments that happen. So I am there to capture everything from drawing out, from women getting their tattoos drawn out to receiving their markings. And then later on, we do a photo shoot. In the bottom left-hand corner, that is my mom, who is getting her traditional markings. Throughout the Tattoo Revitalization Project, as I said, the art of tattooing was taken out of our culture because of residential school. Here I go again. My mom is a residential school survivor. And when our project touched down in Cambridge Bay, in many of the communities, we were met with a lot of resilience, or resistance, I should say, where a lot of people were against the art of tattooing coming back. And a lot of that had to do with the residential school mentality, and so many people being told that it was shamanism or whatever else the case may be. And my mom wasn't immune to that. So when we first got in to Cambridge Bay, my cousin was sitting there and she has the V on her forehead. And my mom went up to my cousin, tapped her on the forehead, and was like, "I don't like that." And throughout the week, we were, as my mom saw how so many women in the community were regaining self-confidence in themselves, and just how it uplifted and changed so many people's spirits. I got home from the tattoo project one night, and mom was sitting on the couch crying, and she said, "I think I need to get my markings." And so her and I sat down that night and we drew up exactly what she wanted her markings to represent. And I'm so proud of her for having that, to be able to reclaim her skin and reclaim a part of her culture that they tried to take away and they couldn't. So I'm proud of her for that. So as you can see, the tattoo projects often get very emotional. Their huvuk is with her aunt. Um, and after she got her facial markings, and this was the first project in Kugluktuk. So Millie was one of the, I believe she was the first woman that Angela had, or Huvak, sorry, had tattooed with their facial markings. So that was a very special session for everybody. We were all in tears. So like I said, after the tattoo project and people get their markings, we continue on with a photo session. So this is for us to really celebrate um, women receiving their markings and displaying them in ways that, like, kind of just putting it out there to the world that this is us now and this is reclaiming our skin. So here are some of the photos that have resulted in the project. So as you can see, there's the our elder Mary is the second from left on the bottom, and she was our resident elder that would come with us on the projects, and she would just be there to help women with decision making, like trying to pass on knowledge about different tattoo meanings and stuff. um, that photo of Mary is one of my proudest photos to date, because when we were in Rankin for this specific one, um, there we had archived photos hanging around the space that everybody was getting their tattoos in, and there is this photo of an elder cupping herself naked, and she looked so scared. And of course, this was probably taken in the 40s or maybe even earlier. Um, and to know that now this photo of Mary is what is going to be out there in the world, and it's kind of changing the outlook of who we are as Inuit, and we are a happy people, and we are proud of who we are, and we are able to be proud of who we are. So that's so special to me, knowing that I'm helping change the narrative that's out when it comes to Inuit. Another special story from the Rankin project was, sorry, a
I'm
special
so
story.
glad.
Oh,
I'm just so glad that you feel comfortable sharing this with us. I mean, that's absolutely remarkable that your mom, was took that step and was so courageous, because it was so looked down upon, and it was so. I mean, it wasn't allowed. It was illegal for a long time, and now for her to have done this, my heart breaks, when I think about it, and when I think about her taking that, and that you were able to take that step with her, that you were there with her when she did this. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry, but I
oh,
just wanted
that's
to say that, and I'd love to hear more of those stories.
yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
It was definitely a something very special, and yeah, and now my mom is very like she's always like, I'm thinking I'm gonna get wise here, and like she's continuously thinking about more. So she's continued on getting more tattoos since the project was in Cambridge. So yes, I'm so proud of her, just to be able to reclaim that part of our culture, and to feel proud of who she is, because along with residential school, of course, you're taught to be silenced and not to have any excitement about your culture, because like you're taught that everything about your culture was wrong. So for her to be able to have that opportunity to reclaim it and to be proud of who she is, and then to know that she's also raised myself and my sisters to be proud of who we are, because now all of us carry on markings, and so it's just something that's going to continue the momentum now, and we're all going to be more proud of who we are and where we come from. So, and our ancestors, because without them we would not be here. So yes. um so this photo here was one that was also really special when we were in Rankin Inlet. So this lady came in to do her photos, and one of the other ladies that was part of the project, she actually was gifted this necklace from her brothers when she was a young child. And it just so happened that the person that carved that necklace was this woman's father. So it was like a full circle moment um, that she was gifted back this necklace because of the Tattoo Revitalization Project. She was able to reclaim a part of her family's um, history. So that was very special. So, yeah, as I said, the art of tattooing was gone from our culture, sorry, for 3 generations. Um, and here we have a great grandmother, grandmother, daughter, and her children. So that's so special that we've got 4 generations here. And of course, the girls, at the time this photo was taken, this was just a temporary tattoo on their foreheads. However, one of them has actually been taught how to tattoo, and she is actively getting her markings and reclaiming her skin, as well as passing it on to other women. So that was something that's really special, that 4 generations have reclaimed it. So yeah, with the tattoo project, we have been featured in a lot of different and special places. This was a 6-page spread on the tattoo project when we were up in Ulahaktok. We also, with our first project in Kugluktuk, we Huvak has published a book called Reawakening Our Ancestors' Lines, which is available everywhere, and it is sharing the stories of all the women from Kugluktuk that had received their markings, and how special the project was for them to experience that, especially since it was our first project. And through this, my work has been published or exhibited in a few different places, like Finland, Poland, Peru, Montreal. So yeah, this was an exhibit that was in Poland. There again, there's my mom in the pink. She wouldn't be without being in pink. So yeah, when through the Inuit Tattoo Revitalization Project, I always wanted to do more, and I wanted to showcase Inuit women in a different way that wasn't so much about, I shouldn't say just about our markings, but like the photos, I didn't want them just to highlight the markings, because really that is a part of us that was always there, but it just wasn't allowed to be seen, right? So one night, you just never know when inspiration is going to strike. So one night I was watching music videos, and the Cranberry video for Zombie, I believe it is, came on. And there was the lead singer dressed in gold. And I jumped up from the couch and took my phone and took a picture of my screen. And I was like, I need to document Inuit women like this. So with that, I was just about to head up to Taloyak for a different project, and I put a call out looking for Inuit women, and I had a couple that had messaged me, and we arranged to do photos. So with that, the Gold series was born. This is Margaret. She was my very first Golden Girl. Um, I knew that it was a special idea to myself, but I had no idea the impact that decorating somebody in gold was going to have on our culture as a whole. It was incredible. So the very first night that I took the photo of Margaret, I took a I think it was a screenshot of the back of my camera and shared it on my Instagram, and it just was overwhelming with how many people were commenting and liking the photo, and how much traction it got. So the Golden series is born, and from there we've documented so many women all dressed in gold, and every single one is special and beautiful. I just love how the series has taken on a life of its own. So um, to me, the thought of women in gold, it just is something so special, because like when you think of a trophy, you want gold. So like it's so sought after, right? So that's where the inspiration really came. So the Gold series has been featured in a small little magazine called Chatelaine, if any of you have heard of that. They did a 6-page spread on the series itself. And then I also had a 6-month exhibit at the Vancouver Maritime Museum, which I called Souls Ignited, empowering the voices of our ancestors, because I feel like that's what we have done through this series, is really um, leveraged voices that were once silenced. So that is what is most special to me. That's and of course, my youngest daughter has gotten a traditional marking on her finger, and my mom and myself, who all three of us have traditional markings. So we were featured at the museum, and there the three of us are at the museum. So it was really special, which, to have my artwork featured at the Vancouver Maritime Museum, because um, they have a huge ship. If you've never been there, they have a huge ship there, um, and we got to go on to the ship, and all three of us were wandering around it. And it wasn't until later on that we found out that my grandfather was actually on that ship when it was in the water. So it was so incredible to know that he might have walked through the same thing going to the front of the ship, or like it was amazing to know that he was actually there, and it kind of was a full circle moment. Um so what's next for my photography and art? I am continuing on with my gold series, so I have decided to um I always wanted this to evolve into something a little more. So, what I'm doing with my photography now is I am telling Inuit women's stories of all that they've overcame in life. And we are doing a Gold Series photo as a celebration of the success they are today, so that it'll be an inspiration for others, so that they can see that we all carry our own wounds, our own stories, and but at the end of the day, we can make it out of there, and do something. That our history doesn't need to be our future, so we can do more and inspire others. So I'm also delving into the art world. So I've started this emerging series, and this is, I call it emerging because, as you can see, the statues have traditional markings, and then I've covered them with gold foil in representation of that it was always beneath, but now it's starting to come to light. So this series is taking on its own its own thing. So it's exciting to see how it's coming together, and I just keep on going with this and rolling. Um, and yeah, that is me. So Juana for listening and
Oh, the work is absolutely stunning. It really is, and I love how it's almost in a playful way as well. That it's. I always say that Indigenous culture needs to be normalized, and by
for sure.
bringing it in this way, it's playful, it's real, it's down to earth, and yet it's special. It's unique. It highlights what's I always talk about Indigenous brilliance, and I think this is a real amazing example of that, because it's just this is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And I was looking at some of the other photography you were taking of women in various. I probably have the term wrong. They're not emojis, but they're like Inuit style coats. What were they coats that family members made, or they're family members who? Oh, Nevy's coats. So these were these people that you knew in Toronto?
So I had the opportunity to go up to Toronto a couple weeks ago um, for the Indigenous Fashion Arts Festival, and so there was some of our with my day job, I was able to bring three of our past participants to Indigenous fashion arts, and Nevi was one of our past participants, and so she is an aspiring parka maker, and she does amazing work. So she had brought along her coats, and I was like, well, I'm here, you're here, let's do a photo shoot. And we also did a photo shoot with a big Inuit TikToker, Christina King, that was there, and she brought some of her designs, so we all did a photo shoot one day together. So it was beautiful.
You seem to focus mainly on women. Is there a specific reason for that?
I when I first started in my photography journey, I was shooting everything. I would do a baby session, like a newborn session one day, then family session, then a wedding. Um, and now I've just really, I love, I always say that my superpower is making a woman see the beauty that she is, that her family and loved ones see when they look at them. Because, so often we get wrapped up in our roles and titles. So we're just a mother, we're just a wife. We don't we forget how special we are. So uh, I love being able to show a woman exactly the beauty that their loved ones see when they look at them.
I love these photographs. You see the women, they're laughing, they're just being themselves. And you're right, they're absolutely stunning. They're just, uh, it's such a wonderful, it's such a wonderful perspective to see. It goes completely against the grain of what we're used to seeing. And I love how it comes from the heart, and um, it comes from community. It comes you know, from within the heart of the culture, this laughter, this beauty. It's incredible. I was looking at the one, I wish I knew what I did to get this reaction. You can almost hear the,
Oh,
yeah, I love that. It's so beautiful and honest. I think that's what I love about the work is so honest, because it's just I could see my cousins like this, I could just see people that I know, and it's just so wonderful. When you're looking at doing your next or continuing with the gold series, what other ideas do you have in mind to portray that, to show that, like different?
oh gosh. Usually I don't know what I'm doing until I'm doing it. it's I'm horrible with because I don't feel that if you come in with with a motive already, then you're kind of taking away from who that person is, right? So like I'm not one that puts people into direct poses. I'm not like, okay, stand with your arm like this. Like I wait until they just fall into who they are, and then that's when you get to actually see who they are as a person and as see their souls, Like I I feel like there's no bigger annoyance for me is when somebody comes with a Pinterest table of what poses they want to do. I'm like, but that's not who you are. So let's just throw that away and let's be you. Because that's who you want to document, right? Like that's why you paid me is to come in here and document you. You, not somebody that's representing somebody else. Like let's get you. So yeah. I'm one that shoots at the hip. Let's go.
That's a good one. Yeah, exactly. And where do you find your models for your work?
Mm. You know, I a lot of it has just been I did a little call out on my TikTok a while ago, looking for women that wanted to be part of this and share their stories. And the response was overwhelming with how many women that I have been approached by. And um, still to this day, I still get messages that of women saying, I would love to be part of your series, and I feel like it's something that I need so that I can heal. And they just it's really special to know that so many people are seeing it as a chance to heal themselves. So it's amazing.
How do you think that works? How do you think that that the work itself and participating in it? I mean, it's very obviously that this is a healing tool, but why do you think that is?
I feel like um, I think I because I give everybody the space to be themselves and to show themselves, to really show themselves. So I feel like that is part of the healing is that they can actually be like, this is me, world. Like it or don't, this is me. Um, it's something really special. One of the girls that I photographed in Ottawa, she felt so amazing in the gold that she actually left the photo shoot and she's like, I'm going downtown with this. I don't care who sees me like this. Like this is me now. she she kind of took it on as a whole, this is just me. I'm golden. So yeah, it's
I
it's
love
always
that.
so special.
I could see that. Yeah, absolutely, especially in Ottawa. So, how did you find yourself so far away from Cambridge Bay?
Yeah, so I moved to Saskatchewan in 1997 um, for a boy. And then we had been traveling the south and with his work moved around quite a few different places. Um, and then now I am in Vermilion, Alberta, and he's gone, but that's okay. But yeah, now my mom and both my sisters are still up north. So my dad is white. He's from settler descent. Um, and so we actually lived up in Cambridge Bay. That's where my mom and dad had met. And we were up there for till I was about 3 or 4 years old. And then my parents moved us to the south. So we lived in Alberta from the time I was about 4 till 14. And then mom went back home after her and my dad separated, and so brought us with her, of course. Yeah.
And if you were to, you talked about the statues, so you're moving into more of a visual art as opposed to photography. What do you think? What was your process to decide to go that way, and where do you think it's going to take you?
Oh, I've always just dabbled in art. I feel like it's just a great outlet to get out emotions and to tap into just when you're feeling that creative buzz and that you just need to create something. Like I feel like if you're an artist, you're always motivated to keep going and trying different things, and some of them work out and some of them don't. So like yeah, with the whoops, sorry. So also with the emerging series, I've done some paintings so that they'll go along with the series too. So like this is, you can see the Y in there, which represents our tattoos, is kind of hidden. And then slowly as the series is going to go on, you can see more and more of it coming out. So um, yeah, I just am always creating something. I feel like I just need to. So
Have you ever thought about going in the other direction and looking more into digital media?
um, recently I did get an iPad, and I've got Procreate downloaded on there, and I've been doing a little bit more. And actually, I'm with my iPad and whatnot. I've started actually designing clothing. So, like I said, I've got all these things going on, and um, yeah, it's a fun process too. So that's going to be coming out soon too.
One of the things that we find varies very much so across the different Indigenous nations is the knowledge transference protocols. In some Western nations, there's more of a very well, I had a friend who's she was Raven Clan, and when it became apparent to her parents that she was artistically inclined, they sat her down and they said, "Okay, these are our images. This is how we draw them. This is how we work with them. You don't use killer whale. You don't use wolf. You don't use, not in that stylized version of it, but this is how you depict the raven, and now you are responsible for this." So, but in my community, we didn't really do that with imagery, but we do have some protocols around stories. There have been some stories that I have been gifted from my community, and I can tell those stories, but I don't. It's not protocol for me to share them. Where I've gone to schools and maybe told the stories, and had teachers say, "Oh, we'd love to make puppets out of that creation story," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, but I can't I can't share that with you. I can't, you would need to bring in an elder or a knowledge keeper. You would need to, work with the community. It's a sacred story. So you can't just, so there's those protocols. And I'm just wondering if you've run I guess maybe with the tattoos, there must be protocols around the tattoos. Have you run across
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that does need to be brought up because like our tattoos have been taken from us for so long that we have just asked people to respect the culture and to respect us for our markings and not to try to take them on as your own, you know. Like it's everyone does mean something special to the bearer of them, right? Our our elder Mary has said that with the art of tattooing being gone from our culture for so long, along with some of the meanings have gone with them. But it's okay for us to make our own meanings now. So, like, just because one person is comfortable in sharing what their markings means, um, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a cut and paste thing for everybody involved. So, if I'm willing to share what my markings mean, but there's some people that want to keep those meanings to themselves and keep that private, and it's just something to be respected. Like my chin tattoo, traditionally that would be representative of your children. However, because it's been gone for so long, i I use this marking as a representation that my ancestors are guiding my words with wisdom and truth.
That's beautiful. I love that interpretation. That and you wear that, so it's with you all the time. That as a reminder of what you say and how you behave. That in itself would be a protocol. That that you're being guided by these values and this wisdom that has been gifted from your ancestors.
Exactly. Yeah, and like I said, it's something that's special and unique to each of us. Like I know my sisters both have markings as well, and you know, my older sister wants to keep some of her markings to herself because that's how special they are to her, right? So um it's not it's not being it's not wrong if you just approach somebody and ask them, "Do you mind sharing what your tattoos mean?" And if they're comfortable, they'll say yes and they'll tell you. If they're not, just respect that because everybody's on their own journey, and it's not up to just because you're carrying those markings, it does you're not responsible for sharing with the world exactly what they mean. Like they can go out and do their own research, and you know, so like it's okay to, if you're not at that place where you want to share what they mean.
And when a young person or any person is looking to have the face markings, how would they approach elders or other people that they're family members? And are there markings that would stay within a specific family?
Yes, so there's I wouldn't say family necessarily, it would be regions. So like the V on the forehead, it has very distinct, there's different ways of having the V. Some of them go way down to the nose, others are like more like a crown kind of thing. Um, and that would be representative of what region you came from, would be the style of it.
And so, if and it's specifically women who have the markings, is that
Yeah,
right?
traditionally women would get the markings. However, we're hearing more and more nowadays about men also carrying markings. Traditionally, they would be like after a big hunt, if they killed their first polar bear, things like that. That would be when they would get it, whereas women would get it to tell our family story.
And how is it? May I ask? I'm wondering how it's done.
So traditionally they would have just used like the soot from our kulik, which is our stone lamp or heater that we would have in the igloos or in our tents. Um, so we would use the soot from that as well as bone back in the olden days, um, and sinew would be passed through the women's skin. One of the tattoo revitalization projects, one of the elders had told us that women in the olden days would have to go, because Inuit are such a we're we're funny. We're funny people. So, and we love laughing, big laughs. And so when women would get their facial tattoos done, they would be put into a tent for the by themselves for a week so that they wouldn't be laughing and cracking their tattoos. So so that their tattoos would have a chance to heal, because otherwise they would be laughing all the time.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're with other people, you're going to be laughing. You're going to be, yeah. And if you have, oh, yeah, yeah.
We would all joke during the project. We'd be like, "Yeah, well, you're gonna laugh like hee 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 for the next week, just to keep your face still."
Try to hold it down.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny. That's funny. Wow. Do your you said you have a couple of sisters? Are they artists? Do they produce work? Do you guys speak the language? I don't. I don't have my language. We were
No,
taught
residential
that.
school.
Yeah, Dad. My mom is also a settler, and but Dad and all his siblings, there were six of them. None of them taught their kids. They all spoke. My dad was trilingual, but he wouldn't. He's like, no, they're not going to need that. We don't. We won't. He didn't want to give us any disadvantage, and he
Yeah.
felt that having the language would be a disadvantage because that's basically what they were taught. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, residential school definitely did its job when it came to mom. Um, and like I said earlier, she was very much taught to be not proud of who she was as a person, as an Inuk specifically. So she kind of passed down that to us, and especially growing up, um, for the majority in Alberta, you know, my sisters and myself, out of the three of us, I was the darkest one with the darkest complexion. And so I found that mom always, she hyper focused on me almost, because like I had to speak properly, I had to eat properly, because I feel like she was setting me up so that I wouldn't have, those walls building, because I would already be judged by just seeing me. So
She was afraid for you.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They did the best they could, and again the same. Like they did the best they could. My dad raised us in Toronto, and I wondered why. Because I loved being up in Rapid Lake. It was a new reserve. It was only created in '61, and it was a dry res at the time, and I loved it. It was picking blueberries, and we weren't told this is your Indigenous culture. It was just everyday life, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why can't we live here? And he said, you'd have to go away to school. And I'm like, I thought it was a bus ride to the nearest town. And I said, we
Yeah.
could do that. And he said, no, not those schools. And I was in my late 20s, early 30s before I realized what he was talking about. I would have gone to residential school. My brothers
Yeah.
would have gone to residential school. And I
Yeah,
have,
that was
yeah,
that was definitely part of the reasoning that my parents moved down south too, was that um because yeah, back then I think Cambridge Bay had a school to junior high, and then after that you would have to be sent out to Yellowknife to complete schooling. So
it's the same thing. My reserve is in Quebec. And so the school only goes to to this day, the school only goes to grade 6. And in Quebec, high school starts in grade 7. So these kids are 13, 14 years old and they have to leave home. Some of them can go to, there's a reserve about an hour and a half away. And there's a lot of intermingling with the families. They're both Algonquin reserves. So they can go there to go to up to high school if they have family there or if there's somewhere they can stay. Otherwise, they're in a couple of towns, like one's 3 hours, the other one's an hour and a half. And so many of them don't make it, at a time in your life when you really need your parents. They're still doing it. And with the pandemic, it was proven that they could have school, because the high school kids had to stay home, that they could deliver high school programming in the community, and that there was no need for them to leave. But they still haven't. As soon as the pandemic was over, right away, it was like, kids got to go. And it's
That's incredible that it's
still,
some. Yeah, and they say that the last ones have closed, but that's not the case, obviously. Like,
they
wow.
may not be residential schools, but the impact of being removed from the family and the culture, in one way, because it's not remote really. It's only 3.5 hours northeast of Ottawa, but it's isolated. It's in a park, which originally was set aside for the use of the Algonquins, but then became a provincial park, and now of course they're clear cutting everything. But there's no store on the reserve. There's only a school to grade 6, a band office, which is a trailer, and a health center, which is a glorified nursing station, and that's it. And they have fiber, but nobody else does. So there's very little employment on the reserve. And there's no, if you want groceries, you have to go an hour and a half this way or 2 hours that way. And but they remain close to the land, and they still survive by hunting, So in that regard, they kept their language more, and the kids still have. The retention is a little bit higher, which is good. But then again, they're still being removed from that. So there's that issue. So how do we, where do you start, eh?
Yeah, and then like the sad thing is that these people that are experiencing that are then released out in the world to go and have children themselves, but they have none of that none of that guidance to know what love feels like, what parenting feels like and looks like. So then, and then, people that are non-indigenous are looking at us and being like, why aren't the families being involved? Well, we don't know what it's like to be a family, right? Like, we don't know what, like, you always know that you're family and that you're related, but you don't, like, it hasn't been passed down on what that's supposed to look and feel like. So sad.
Yeah, it really is. What are the roles? What are the responsibilities? It's hard. It's we're starting. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
I heard Willie Littlechild. I think he was one of the commissioners for the TRC, and he said, I heard him say one time, first at residential school, he said first they turned us into animals, and then they turned us loose. And at 18 they aged out. They were sent away. Most of them didn't have homes to go back to. So they ended up, God knows where. But so the resilience, the fact that there's a resurgence and a revitalization and a reclamation that is going on now. I mean, it just really speaks to the spirit. With all of this that happened, we're still here. We're getting stronger. Our not all languages, but where we have any iota, any little tiny bit of knowledge, it's being shared. Like you were saying with the markings, that's huge. It must have been. I can't even imagine the pride and because it's such a real accomplishment. It's such an enormous uh, reclamation to bring that back and to pass it on. And that's the thing, passing it on to the next generations. Like that's, to really be a part of that, because they tried to make us extinct, but that resurgence, to really be a part of that's historic. It's in the scope of humanity. It's so I can't even find the words to say how important it is.
For sure. It's, yeah, being a small part of that project is not something that I've ever taken lightly. And, telling, being there for the roller coaster that the women are on when they're receiving their markings was like, there was so much healing that happened just from, not just, but from reclaiming their skin. There was one woman that I can think of that was, before the needle even touched her, she was already weeping in tears, and like, not just a small cry, like not just shedding tears, like it was like weeping in tears. And then throughout her getting her marking, she just kept on talking and telling her story. And then by the end of it, she was laughing and like so light. And then we heard after we left the community, that from other people in the community, that after she received her marking, she was a different person. Like it was like just being able to have that, be empowered enough to reclaim her skin and to reclaim markings that belonged to her. It was like, it gave her the self-confidence and the self-belief that she could do anything again. So that's, yeah, it's definitely not something that I've ever taken lightly, like to the point that I don't know if you can see, but on the top of my fingers I have dots, and those represent the 4 communities that we've been to and all the women that got their markings during the projects, because they're always going to be part of me.
That is totally amazing. That's just wonderful. I can't wait to see what else you do. I think, your next steps are just like, and born of this experience as well. Having experienced this, and every time, you go on to the next thing, you're bringing all that knowledge and all that experience with you. I can't wait to see what happens next.
I'm always excited about the future too, because I feel like every single thing that comes in your direction is either going to bring you a lesson or more knowledge to learn from it. And you're put in these places exactly at that time for a reason. So it's up to you to figure out what that reason is. So definitely not something to play with, like, I just have been embracing all these opportunities that have ever come my way, because I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do that, because it's going to bring somebody into my life that I'm supposed to be part of, so yeah, just saying yes to different opportunities is amazing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I always say I never learn anything when it's going swimmingly. But when it's all going horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, as I said earlier, with the way that I ended up in Alberta here, my sorry. I was married for 20 years, and then he decided there was a better life out there. And then, when we were together, when I was married, I never would have had that self-confidence to be like, hey, can I paint you in gold? Like, I would never have done that. So, like 5 years ago, I thought that my life was over, but it turns out that it was just a new page that I needed to be turning. So.
That's fantastic. I love that. Hey, can I paint you in gold?
Yeah. Yeah, like I I would have been told that it wasn't like nobody wants to do that, So then I would have been like, yeah, you're right. So
Yeah, what was I thinking?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I want to thank you so much, Kachimigwich, for being here with us today. I can't wait to see what's coming next. Again, like as I said, and I can't. I've been I'm on the side here, kind of scrolling through your Instagram and your other socials, and seeing your work is so beautiful, and just you can see these women glow. You can see that, they own themselves, you know, and uh, and that's in part because of the type of lens and the way that you look at them, that 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 encourages that revelation, that revealing of themselves, and I just love to see that, and we need more of that. We need to share that a lot.
Yeah. Thank you so much for asking me to be part of this. It's my pleasure to share my work with everybody.
That's wonderful. Well, Kachimi Gwitch, and we'll be keeping an eye out on you.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Kwana Kutut.
Thanks.